Okay, guys. So yeah, the reason I'm doing this meeting is uh, because I don't want to really do wipes unless necessary. Um, like a major game update that requires a wipe or something like that. You know, we had to do quite a few wipes before, just because of stuff that was going on, either game issues or we did it because of hackers one time, stuff like that. Um, I don't want people to have to keep starting over and over again. But one thing that was good about it was every time we wipe, it changes the in-game dynamic. The alpha changes, all that sort of stuff. New players they're able to establish, and depending on the wipe, certain people get ahead, certain people fall behind based on their activity or the way they operate in game. And it creates new alphas and stuff like that, and then
Phoenix's Thrall said wipe 11/14 Phoenix official x10 xp/x10 gather/x10 crafting no gods restarting in 20 minutes.
Oh, nice. The server can restart in 20 minutes. I did not plan that out well. Anyways, the only issue with it is there's two things we're going to discuss. One is that we want to try to find a way to balance in-game power, put at least the alphas on another playing level, especially if other players are fearful or unwilling to challenge the alpha. And the other thing we're going to discuss is how to tweak the in-game, either by outside of settings, policies, or by in-game settings to facilitate less or no offline rating, and have more rating in-game when people are online. So it creates more PvP. It's a little bit funner. Even players and clans in game that are bigger and alphas or larger clans have complained that they don't like the fact that they have to offline raid, because if they raid with somebody's one guy or a whole clan is online, the repairing, the ability to repair and the building, the amount of damage that buildings take, makes it impossible to raid if they just wall themselves in with foundations, stuff like that. So we want to figure out a way to make online raiding really the best way to raid and draw people away from offline raiding, because that's no fun. All you do is break into people's stuff, and you get their stuff, and then you're gone, and there's no challenge, there's no fight, there's no more significant opportunity for defense and action PvP. So that's kind of what we will discuss. I'll give the floor to you guys. If someone starts talking and has an opinion, just let them talk. You can wait till afterward, after they're done, and you guys can go back and forth on that. Looks like we have a good amount of people in here. 1, 2, 3, 6. We have at least 7 people. Other people might join during. That's fine. I know we have only 2 people at the HQ. If any of you guys want to come to the HQ, just let me know. I'll summon you here. But anyways, I'll leave the floor to you. Let's start with one topic first. Let's start with dude, I forgot what was my first topic.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty much the one about offline rating.
Well, the offline rating, and then I said something before that, and I'm having a brain fart right now.
Making the playing field more even, you were saying, but that was still offline rating.
Oh yeah. So let's discuss how to. I guess you know what the offline rating thing might play into balancing the in-game dynamic a little bit between alphas and whatnot. So yeah, let's talk about that. How we can limit or eliminate offline raiding and just culture like more PvP in game. Go ahead.
Well, from my point of view is that, well, from my experience too, when you basically raid when people are online, it makes it almost impossible. I mean, basically, the way that game dynamics are, you can just repair, you can drop down more blocks, and basically it's futile. You won't get in ever because you can repair faster than you can deal damage. That's my opinion. But I mean, yeah, I think that the offline rating is kind of bogus too, because when you log in and you find your place empty, it's kind of fucked. And yeah, it'd be better if going on PvP wise. But how do you go about balancing that is the question.
Anybody have any ideas?
Yeah, would you like me to chime in?
Sure, go ahead.
So let's say that we did a risk analysis on the game program, right? You guys familiar with risk analysis?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically it's an analysis to determine what's fun about Conan Exiles, right? Revenge matches were one of the things that came up as one of a major factor. So being able to spawn somewhere, even if it was just a 1x1 or a 2x2, build up, and then take out an alpha clan when they're offline, that pleased people. They were happy with that. So taking away offline rating would destroy revenge matches in that respect. You could only revenge match when people are online. Granted, anything that Phoenix has been talking about here is likely to have to be a mod or something that you're going to have to add to Conan, because vanilla Conan's not going to allow for it.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of get that. Like, the only downside to that is having the ability to offline raid enables clans. Say now everybody doesn't play the same. Everybody's on a different level psychologically, the way they operate in game, all that kind of stuff, the way they conduct themselves, or the way that they present themselves in game. So the only problem with that is if we have quote unquote alpha clan that has a lot of the power, and say you have Joe Schmo out here in a tier 1 base over here with the ability to offline raid, or say they have a tier 2 base that's somewhat defensible, with the ability to offline raid, what happens without being able to regulate people's personalities, the way they operate in game, they can just offline raid them out of existence over and over and over again. Now, the reason I did the server the settings it's at with the high structure health, or actually it's really the low damage it takes, is so that if you're offline rated, say you're 1 guy or 2 guys or 3 guys or whatever, if you're offline rated, your structure still remains. So you still have that format, that structure to build off of. If you're completely rated out, even if they take all your stuff inside, you still have your structure. So it seems a little less tedious to start over again. You know what I'm saying? And it makes it a little bit funner because you're not like constantly just starting over again, and then in the process of starting over again, that clan possibly obliterates you again, just destroying all your building. So you have this foundation to build off of. That was kind of my idea. I wanted to make the in-game dynamic more about PvP and raiding, and less about the grind to get back on your feet, to get back in the fight. But if we have an alpha clan that say has 5, 10, 15 members, and they're constantly without filter raiding people and obliterating their stuff, it's not fun for the person that's getting raided. It's fun for the people that are raiding to an extent without the PvP added into it. But even some people that have on this server been doing a lot of offline raiding are complaining that's not even fun to them anymore. They want more action. They want PvP. They want people to be able to actually defend instead of wall themselves in and just repair.
Alright, I'll take this one too. So people enjoy a couple of things, right? They enjoy being first in something, right? So having a weekly wipe cycle was beneficial, right? Because you could plan to take a week off of work and play your Conan, or play your Rust, or play your Ark, or whatever game it is. Enjoy it at the moment. But clan fights, clan servers, were always 1 week wipes. In Rust and in Ark, there were 1 week wipes because, again, you can't coordinate that many people for a long period of time. You also, if there's any action going on the server, it's kind of boring. It's just bullshit. So to promote more action, server admins have been thinking about mods that allow an in-game store. An in-game store, you get points for doing an activity that would promote action. In this particular case, you would choose killing people, right? So the more people you kill, the more in-game store points you earn. So that would make it so you were wandering around looking for people to kill in order to get ahead. And that enticed people that were in clans. They enjoyed that. Because you had your clan and other clans would join and have a fight between themselves, the different alphas, I guess, what we're talking about. Right now, there isn't really any incentive to kill somebody other than to take what they have. And honestly, people have is pointless because most people leave the good stuff in the base. It's very rarely that you get lucky and you kill somebody that had anything good on them. So again, you have to mod.
Points, yeah, points, that kind of thing sounds fine to me. I mean, weekly wipes would blow because, I mean, my build takes at least a week to build alone.
Well, that's just it. With an in-game store, right, you would have the ability to just buy pieces. You would be able to build your build through points.
The only negative thing I see to that on maybe this server or in this game is I mean, it's cool if the developers develop something like that, but currently right now, as it is, that creates a huge admin work deficit, because then what it requires is a lot of in-game regulation and tracking to be able to facilitate something like that. So right now, that'd be a good idea for Funcom to put a mod in, like you said, or something like that, or some kind of in-game modification. But right now, it's not really facilitatable.
I have a suggestion for the making more of the balance of power type of thing. People that, I mean, I don't know how you would implement it though. People that start the server for the first time or whatever have a grace period, like, you know, like a week to build up and to get stronger. That would be, I mean, that would be one idea to make the balance of power. Because I see a lot of people that are already established and they're going into the noob area and they're wasting these guys before they even are out of Tech 1, and they just leave the server because they just get totally obliterated. That, I think, is limiting the amount of people that are coming to the server, and you can see them, they come, they get wasted, and then they leave. You don't ever see them again.
There's no other way.
And I agree, but if there was a way that we could, I don't know, limit the amount of, or give them time to establish themselves, maybe that might be a little bit helpful for them. Don't raid anything that's Tech 1 just because of that fact. I like to be able to see people stay, but I know there's a lot of people that, you know, are just, they go around just destroying everything, so.
Yeah, that's definitely an issue. So there's a few different ways that other servers have dealt with that, and I'll give kind of the pros and cons. Obviously, the pro to each one is that new players have an appropriate amount of time to build up. Of course, that depends on how much time they have available to actually build up. But or where they're located. There's a few ways of doing it. But obviously, okay, so the benefit to all of those is new players have the ability to build up without being raided and obliterated, and they have some time to get established. So here's a few options that servers have done. I'm going to tell you the what I see is negative about them, and I don't think will work, is one that I've seen is a noob area. So the noob area becomes off limits to raiding and PvP. It's cool. What ends up happening is established clans, stuff like that, they'll create a base in those areas that's not able to be raided, and they'll just stash their stuff there, and it basically becomes like a vault for all clans, and they can just keep everything in their bases other places just free of anything that they don't want to lose. So it becomes an in-game vault all in the noob area or wherever they decide to establish that. So that's one option. The other option is you can give just, I mean, I don't think I've technically seen this, but you can give new players that announce their new a grace period to be able to roam free and stuff. Granted, they do not raid or PvP themselves, or else that would eliminate their ability to be protected. But you give them a grace period, protection period, where they can build up without fear of being raided. Negative part of that is people might come in unannounced, build up, and then announce later on that they're here and just add time to their grace period. I'm sure there's some other negative reasons I can see to that, but it's not foolproof because that's really reliant on whether people know the rules, whether they know they have a grace period. Some people just come into the game and they just start playing, and then later on come to the Discord or whatever and figure out the rules and stuff like that. So there's a couple options. I don't know if you guys have any other options, but those are the positive and negative I see to those specific options.
All right. That would be a lot more work also for the admins, I'm sure, as well, right? Because you have to keep track.
Yeah, I have to keep track of everybody that comes in the game, especially in a server that has a lot of people coming in and stuff like that. I mean, that's a lot of work.
And not only for the admins, but we the players need to keep track on who's new as well.
Okay, so the point was that you need some way to retain people that are new to your server, right? You're worried that they're going to be destroyed by some larger clan that can just go around and wipe them.
Yeah, we don't want.
In order
It's
to combat that, why don't you just create a server that is solo duo trio? Right? That's the concept where people can only be in max groups of 3. If you're found collaborating with another group of 3, right, you're just banned.
Yeah, but here's the negative to that is then I have to keep track of who's in what clan, and it's impossible to keep track of who has alliances with who. I mean, we might possibly see people fighting together, and that would clue us in. But otherwise, I mean, there's other things that they could do behind the scenes.
Discord, and it can be disputed, just like the crap talk bros channel you got in here.
Yeah, but that's also, as an admin, I foresee that being just like all reporting for hacking and cheating. I have to then sift through all the data. I have to watch players. There's a lot of work that goes into it. A lot of people, they have suspicions and stuff like that. Once they bring the suspicion to me, then I have to investigate everything, and that takes a lot of time itself. And the problem is people don't always put thought into it first. They see something and they accuse right away without thinking, well, this might be this might be this. Let me see if I can figure it out first, and then bring it to an admin. So now smaller groups of clans, fine. Negative to that as well is it doesn't stop you from having big groups, because like you said, people can ally and stuff like that, and you're basically just alpha that's splintered celled into different clans.
No allies. Solo duo trio, no allies.
Having 3 people online at the same time is also the other issue, because a lot of these clans that have more people basically still only field about 3 people online at a time, because people have different work schedules and stuff like that. So I mean, if you limit it to 3 people in a clan, I mean,
Phoenix's Thrall said wipe 11/14 Phoenix official x10 XP /x10 gather /x10 crafting /no gods restarting in 1 minute. Final warning.
Okay, go ahead.
So I mean, yeah, I mean that's the other issues. I mean, when people have time to play. I mean, I know in my clan, I mean, we have like, you know, probably 8 or 10 people, but we only usually field about 3 at any given time.
Well, I'm saying that you only get solo, duo, trio.
Yeah, right. But I mean, if you only had 3 people, then that means only like 1 person would be online.
Or no people. Exactly. That's the point.
Then, but how do you control alliances then? I mean,
there aren't any alliances. You cannot have alliances. If I'm collaborating with somebody else in this battle, whoever's watching you do it, the screenshot, puts it on Discord, and there you go.
There's a lot of stuff that can happen behind the scenes, so it's just if the
argument is you want to save people that are starting not build, right? Then you need some way for them to be equal with everyone. The only way to do that is to, right now, is to wipe. Unless you add some kind of in-game store where people can farm.
So, people that have built and spent, you know, the last month building themselves up, I mean, it's not really fair to them in that sense either, because we work as hard as we have for.
Let's say Phoenix does a store, right? But he doesn't wipe the store every wipe. He just wipes the server.
Build your place every week? I mean, that would be ridiculous. I mean, honestly, I'd probably leave the server.
Well, yeah, part of the fun too about this game is building and, you know, getting all this stuff that we have in game, trophies, for people who like to RP a little bit while they PvP, you know, building out their base, making it look pretty, gathering the kind of in-game trophies, that kind of show an effort or the product of their effort in the game, besides just PvP. Like, I want to cultivate PvP and raiding and stuff like that, but I also want to keep all the other aspects of the game that people will find enjoyable. There's some people like Covert Ops, you know, he comes in every now and then. He's on a PvP server, but to be honest, most of the time he's RPing. He builds tier 1 bases and he puts up signs about drugs. And he puts, like, you know, every little RP item you can have in his bases and outside and stuff like that. And that's what's fun to him, you know.
I mean, that's good. Like, I enjoy the building aspect of it too, and then having your pad, you know, and having the space that you built, you know, and having to rebuild it every week would be. I mean, we're talking 1,000 blocks that I used to build my last place. I mean, it would be all work all week, and then it'd be wiped again. So, you know, the game would definitely be different.
Okay, let's give somebody else. Oh, here's Studio 3 says, what about making no rating days? Limit rating to certain days. Any comment on that?
That seems a good idea, and sorry for not speaking before. Zylik, the way you propose stuff, for me, nothing against it, for me it seems like a model of communism or socialism, because you're taking new players, treating them like they're fucking poor, and then making the older clans that are working for way more time to be poor as well with those presenting stuff, you know, the wives. Also, limiting to 3 players is kind of critical. The people that have a lot of friends like the OTR, I don't know if he knows a lot of his members, but that's it's like big plugs in the box. Also, you can you can have an online safe zone for dudes, like a big online setup with the decide, like, maybe from the Centerscape to the south, they'll give a lot of resources to new players and protect them as well. Because one I've been in other servers, and the problem there is that there's a beginner zone, but there's not always space there for you to build or enough resources. Seeing as you can also meet up with other players over there, and they may kill you. So yeah, a safe zone is cool, but bigger clients using it for storing their goods, seeing as they can't be raided over there, yeah, that's a problem as well. Something that will fall on the admin, and that is also a problem because the admin cannot be always online, and keeping track of the clients is kind of hard, as you can see. So my proposition is making an outline in the map and making that a safe zone.
You could, that's a good point. I think that you could also limit, like, say, no vaults, and then I don't know, but how else could you monitor how, like, so that way people aren't storing stuff there? You know, I don't know how else you could limit that, but I don't know if can the admin actually see inside bases and see what they have in their storage, so that way it could be
I mean, in game I can't see what they have in their storage specifically. I can see inside of the bases. I can go through the bases. I can take a look. I can see if they have, you know, chests, you know, workstations, you know, vaults, anything like that. I can see physically what's inside of the base. I can't in-game look inside of those chests or vault as we have it right now with everything being locked. I can't.
Okay. So it would be a big time monitoring thing for you, basically, to keep track of how much time they've been in the new zone or whatever, right? Right, I got you. Well, yeah, that's a problem.
I think several of us have been playing on servers that limited raiding as well, with raiding hours. That's an option as well, but then again, it's a lot more intense during those raiding hours. I don't know if that's something we want on this server.
Yeah, it's intense, which is actually, I think, kind of cool. But the one issue with that, and the reason why this server is a 24/7 raid, is because if you have like a set daily raid timer, so between this hour and this hour, the problem is we do have a lot of players like Wheelie. You're in Norway. You know, we have players in other countries. They're not always able to be online to defend or to raid during those raid hours, and that's the issue. Is we have lots of people in different time zones, and it's just not fair to some players that might be in another country or stuff like that to have, like, my time during the day, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. or something. You could be asleep during those times, and you would miss out on everything all the time.
Well, the bonus that I've seen in other games, especially like Ark and Rust, is if you're able to be rated all the time, you actually have to spend part of that time making sure your shit's good, which takes the pressure off newer guys and gives them a chance to actually build up and be able to defend themselves.
Town Hall.
Apparently.
Yep. We're talking. Yeah, here. Let me just re-announce what we're doing for people that came in a little bit late. So what we're discussing is how to balance the power in game. So every time we do a wipe, there becomes a new alpha. Obviously, the new alpha right now in this specific server is the villains. But for example, in previous wipes, it's been a different clan each time. We've had the Brazilians on a couple different wipes, but different clans kind of take the alpha role. Usually it's whatever clan has the most players or something like that, or is able to get a foothold quick enough and build up without being raided. That's usually the clan that has the alpha. Before that, on one of my first couple wipes, it was the Nomads. Nomads had they would have 14 players on at one time. They're able to build this huge, massive structure and other bases around the map, and they were alpha because numbers, basically numbers. So each time I do a wipe, it kind of rebalances for the most part the alpha of the clan. So we want to look at a way to balance that, where a guy in a big clan, now we can't do this completely, but a big clan isn't completely wiping or dominating every other clan that has 1, 2, 3 players on the map. So that's one thing. And the other thing we're talking about is how to eliminate a lot of the offline raiding and entice more people to have in-game PvP. So the reason is because as it is right now, we can't regulate players and how they play, how they think, their psychology in game. So what happens sometimes is, we have some players that go around, they just raid people constantly. Whether they're in a T1 base or whatever, and it's not fun for the people who are getting raided because they can never get a foothold in our server. So we want to look at ways of how we can balance that more and keep people from not being able to get a foothold. But also, as the game is right now, I've had some complaints that because of the damage, the small damage that buildings actually take, that people can just wall themselves in foundations and sit there with repair mats and just keep themselves from being raided. Now, I intentionally balanced the in-game dynamic towards the defender, so it makes it easier to defend and harder to raid. And the reason being is the raider or attacker has a few things to their benefit. They have the knowledge of what they're going to do next. The defender doesn't have a knowledge of what they're going to do next. They don't know when they're going to be raided. They don't know when to prepare, where to prepare, what time they're going to be raided. That's the negative to the defense. But if you give them a cookie, high structure, or it's not even high structure damage or health. It's really the absence of that. It takes less damage. The doors are still normal, but the building itself takes less damage. So they have that cookie to help them defend, right? So
yeah, but that same the dynamics will lead to more offline raiding as well.
Yeah, and that's the argument, is that because it is that way, then it deters people from online raiding and switches it more to offline raiding and able to raid, and that's less fun because there's less PvP. It's just literally blowing into buildings and taking people's stuff.
What about setting raiding times?
That got shot down because of the differences in time zones and people in different countries. There's no way to
can't set
make sure
multiple
everybody
ones.
I mean, you probably could, but
You'd have to mod it.
You could set, like, one day would be for Eastern people and another day would be for this time zone. If you could set it at multiple ones at different times.
You'd have to mod it.
yeah, but then there's players like me. I'm on Adderall for ADHD, which keeps me up a long period of the day, so I have more like 18 hours of my day are available to me to be on, versus people who are working and then going to bed at a regular time. So, and then I'm also a college student at the moment, so that adds to the change in schedules and stuff. It's just, you'd have to talk to everybody and be able to coordinate a general time frame that most people can access. Would be the problem.
It sounds like you guys are locked up.
Going back to what Phoenix was saying, with the boosting the defenders stuff, the problem I see with that, especially since getting into the server, was with us being on a 10-time server, it's almost a freaking cakewalk for a new guy like myself and my buddy who just joined your server to rebuild an entire base that should take a couple of days, and that should cost them really a lot to break into in the first place. But with it being easier for me to rebuild my base versus them get the resources, it kind of takes away from that. I don't know, it's unbalanced to me way more than I think you intended.
Okay, anybody else?
The only thing I can say about that is that the times 10, well, it also allows the people that do get raided an easy way to rebuild quickly. it doesn't hurt as much, which facilitates more action in the sense that people can raid, and you don't just have to spend a week to rebuild your base. It only takes a day or two. I mean, I think the times 10 is a good thing.
Well, that's fair. I'm just saying because we got raided the first day, and we're up and running.
That's what's fun, and that I see that a lot of people that have power in the game, and they go and they raid the noobs, and that's it's kind of pointless. I mean, there's nothing there you're gonna get anyway. They don't have anything that you don't already have, and then you're just shutting them down, and a lot of these people leave the server.
Yeah, I mean that's coming from a guy that's technically you're in the Alpha Clan currently, and that's coming from that guy. And I mean, we all want to have fun, We all want a little bit of challenge, a little back and forth, and we don't want too much one-sidedness. And just finding a way, either like I said, within the settings of the server or within outside the server settings policy would be great.
I mean, I definitely like this player base that we have, though, in general, just because the majority of us are cool with the PvP action for the most part, either being like in raids from watching chat and listening to people talking and whatnot. I have only dealt with one instance myself, but I like how in the server there's kind of like an honor system going on, where you don't like screw with people and it's like repeatedly.
I mean that's true for probably a good number of players on the server, but there are players in different clans and everything else, and they go a little bit overboard, to be honest. And they either they're bored or they're just that's just the way they play, but they'll just constantly roam around and raid other people. And
the IP area is a good idea. I mean, I know the admins is more work for you guys, but I mean, generally that's what you're trying to implement is a more balanced player field. So maybe that's what it takes to make that more balanced player field, is to have like a newbie area and then have to like just register people, and only give them like a week or until they move out of that area, because some people might take longer to build up than others if they only have a little bit of game time. But I think that was a great idea. I think.
Can I had a question about the buildings degrading over time? I've run into several, like, probably almost 30 different, like, small to large bases that are at full, like, where it says it's been degraded, or whatever the term is, and I can't get rid of it. And it prevents you from being able to build in that area. And it's obviously abandoned. It's been, like, raided, it's gone, everybody's gone. So why are those still there?
I think you can destroy them, dude.
I've wasted, like, full stack of, like,
not raiding. Like, I think there's an option when you interact with it to destroy it.
It won't let me. I can't interact with it, though, because it's claimed.
Hold E.
I know how what you're saying. I'm saying that I tried that and it does not work. Sorry, I'm trying
to decay first, and at first you can't touch it, and it just says decayed. But then, like after a day or two, it will finally go to where it allows you to destroy the building. Yeah, I know what you mean, because I've seen a lot of those as well, and you wonder, like, coming back to this, and yeah, and it also destroys resources too, because a lot of times people build right next to nodes.
It prevents stuff from spawning too, which the biggest problem for the new guys that I noticed being newer, that me and my buddy ran into, was there were so many of them south of, like, the giant canyon wall that splits the desert from the forest, that it was almost impossible to find a decent spot to build where we could actually have a chance to build before getting destroyed.
I know that if you tell the admins, if they're online at the time, they'll come over and they'll demo the buildings as well sometimes. I mean, if it's definitely obviously been abandoned. But I think that would end, actually, if we had the newbie area and they were protected, that you would, that anything outside of that, you know, it would be open territory to be raided, would, I mean, it still might leave a lot of structures laying around, but I think if you shorten the decay time, it makes it kind of a problem. If you don't come online all the time, you could come online and find your building gone because it went into decay.
Yeah, because like I know on Ark, especially PvP servers on Ark, if you don't come back, aren't online, you're to make sure your shit's good, it'll decay, or even rust, it'll decay, and then it automatically destroys itself after a certain point, which is meant to prevent players with larger clans from spreading out and making it impossible for the smaller guys to be able to be a threat to them at all. Or even have fun.
I don't think like maybe every 3 months a server wipe would be out of line. I mean, something like that would be.
Yeah, on a 10-time server, 3 months is like.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like a week of building, depending on the size of your clan, and then the rest of it you just screwing around and having fun, for the most part.
I know for myself it took me, and I'm talking solo, even on a times 10 server, it took me about a week to build my base. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're nowhere even close to done, but between myself and my buddies and my clan that we started, we still, like, compared to any other game server we've been on, we're still, like, a good 2 weeks ahead of where we would normally be at this point. We've been on for 3 days. So it's like, yeah. I mean,
well, considering you can make the highest tier base on the first day, and you can make a pretty big base, I'm unsure why you're even having trouble at all.
The thralls and, I mean, yeah, I don't know. My base.
What do you need thralls for?
For everything. I mean, I don't craft anything without thralls.
I mean, you don't have to use them, but they're by far better to use stuff that involves
the costs and the time periods involved. I mean, you can't do the kind of things you could do, but I mean, more even that the fighting thralls for defense of your base as well. And now with the way the thralls can be fitted, it's even more of an aspect because you got more time in making the resources to arm them and, you know, give them weapons.
I mean, to be honest, myself, I wish thrall defense was a little more effective. The problem with it right now is, I mean, you could sit with a bow at far enough distance, the thralls don't latch onto you, and you can just take them all out without ever actually meeting any resistance. It just becomes like a tedious task of killing each thrall. I wish they had a little bit more, effective
I would like to
AI.
out, though I think with that it has to do with where you place them, because our base got hit a second time by some individual in top tier shit. He got wrecked by 3 tier 3 thralls that we had decked out by placing them inside of like a small corridor where he can't like sit far away from them. Yeah,
that's definitely a tactic. If you could build your structure to make it harder for them to actually kill and make it better defense. I mean, but if they're a big enough clan, they have enough bombs. Yeah. What I've done, I've built trap bases and stuff like that. What they do is they fall for it for the first, couple times, but then they just come with bombs and blow everything apart so they can get to them. But yeah.
I don't know. I feel like, especially coming at it from the little guy standpoint, if you're going to get onto a PvP server, you have to expect a certain level of you're going to get fucked with. You shouldn't be playing PvP if you're not willing to take the hit if you happen to get in the path of the bigger guy. That's just how these games are played. I mean, you can balance it all you want, but in the end of the day, it's a PvP server. It's meant for you to destroy their shit or kill them, and then do the same to you.
And there will always be alpha clan, no matter what.
And every time, and whenever there's an alpha clan, it gives every other smaller group reason to not fight each other, and then they can focus on the larger clan. That's just how it works out usually. The larger clan is usually the target of everybody else. So it's not really imbalanced towards the alpha clan. They just happen to have more members to gather resources on us, like working together versus several smaller groups going after them.
I agree completely. Yeah.
I mean, because I used to be part of like a larger clan on Ark, and we were good to start with, and then all the other groups would come in, and we got screwed, you know. And then whenever this, like you said, whenever the server wipe, it just happens to be whoever gets the best foothold at the beginning, or has the most players on at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was going to say just that I think that the newbie area sounded like a really good idea.
Yeah, but I definitely think it shouldn't be very large, because just depending.
It should be like south of the river at the bottom of the mountain.
Large, fat, like thick river. Yeah, it should be south of that if you're gonna make it.
Yeah, the negatives I see as an admin is one, like we talked about, the regulating, you know, who's building there and stuff like that just takes a little time. There was another thing as well. Oh, the negatives. I mean, on a 10 times server, that becomes less useful, because if you stay in the noob area, the resources there are limited. The stuff that you really want, you have to move out of the noob area to get. So on a 10 times server, with how fast you're able to gather stuff, your necessity to stay in the noob area is little to none. Little to none.
I would say right now, technically, I would consider anywhere south of probably 5-minute walk tops from, what is it, the abandoned city or whatever, is basically, and to the east and west, like not very far past the river itself. It's still basically noob area, because there's not a lot of primary resources there. All the anywhere that has like brimstone or iron or any of the top higher tier stuff that you need to move through tier 3 and up are basically where all the players who have been here a while are sitting at.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's once you start getting to iron and more above, that's really where it starts. Because I mean, brimstone, crystal, and all that you can actually get in the noob area. It's really the iron and stuff that you have to get out of that area to grab.
Brimstone is basically useless to you until you get to that tier, anyways.
There as well. I mean, it's right above the alligator cave, and there's iron right there. I don't know, maybe section off an area that has basic resources in it, and make that the new area. And if people don't want to move into it when they first start, that's up to them. And people that feel that they need to be sheltered a little bit, maybe they have to register or something before they move into that area.
I mean, what you could do is the admin himself could make a plan, or you could have somebody specifically who's willing to take the hit for that wipe period, who is in charge of that clan, and makes a base that is not to be messed with. It's like new clan or some shit like that, and then they let noobs come in, spend a day there to get their bearings, and then kick them back out of the clan so they can't get back in.
Yeah, well, another negative to that from an admin's perspective is that I'd have to be online all the time to accept them into the clan, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but you could also have certain people who are I don't know. It's just an idea.
Yeah, no. I'm going to give positives and negatives to everything, just so we look at all sides of everything and find the best option.
I have a solution then, Phoenix, for you. So there's been a lot of argument about clan and ownership and alpha clan. What if you got rid of clans in a respect where you had clan A, clan B, clan C, but they were randomized? Like, you gave a point system to each player, like an MMR system, and you had a match system. And you said, all right, for this week, these 5 people are in a clan, these 5 people are in a clan, these 5 people are in a clan.
The problem with that is, the problem I see with that, it would be a good idea, but there's plenty of players that I watched talk in game that obviously really don't like each other, and will happily spend that entire period screwing over the rest of their clan just to screw over that one person they got stuck in the group with them.
Yeah, well, not only that, I mean, that sounds actually like a pretty fun dynamic to have, but the problem is right now the execution of it is just too tedious, because there's no built-in in-game mod to be able to regulate that. And
just make a channel and have the players figure themselves.
Their friends,
Yeah, the only reason, to be honest, the only reason I'm on your
Say
server
you
is
have
because
5 teams.
my buddy picked the server to join, and so I just followed him. I don't have a problem with the server. I've played on this kind of stuff before. It's just I didn't have any like real choice in the server.
Make a challenge system then, like clan challenges the other clan by putting some resources in a pool, and whoever wins get all of their resources and shit.
I mean, that would be a cool event. But as a full server model, I don't know about that, but that would be a cool event.
I mean,
Well, you know, I've tried Phoenix a couple
is
times.
that like specifically for Conan? Is that like a server thing? I'm just curious because I've never seen that before. That voter reward thing.
I mean, I don't know if they've done it in other games, but it's definitely something. Yeah, I'm sure that they have, but it's definitely something that a few servers use, and it's beneficial to the server, and it's beneficial to the players as well.
Or is it like as the server admin, are you the one who regulates that stuff? Or
yeah. So if you look in our Discord, we have a couple channels. We have one where I announce what the rewards are going to be for the week, and then I have a channel where where me and the other admins keep track of the rewards, so we're able to see where they left off, how many since the last time they voted, are they able to cash in. It's kind of, it's a point system that they can use to cash in for prizes basically, and it helps out the server because when they vote for the server, it helps us to build a good reputation and for the server in a forum, Top Conan servers, which a lot of people pay attention and go to see, how many is this server active, how popular is the server, does it have good comments, that sort of thing. So it helps out the server and it helps out the player because you get to gain stuff. It's cool to get like, little prizes for doing, such a simple thing. But I try to make it so they're not extremely beneficial, but they're worth it as well,
Yeah, unfortunately what I see here is like any which way that you try to balance the field, it's going to be more work for the admins no matter what, because the in-game doesn't allow you to really set those kind of settings or have those automatic features of filtering out different things. So I mean, honestly, it's going to come back down to the admins monitoring. I mean, obviously it's your server, and I know that you have other people that do adminning. So I mean, realistically, it's basically going to come down to, yeah, I mean, any which way you look at it, it's going to be more work for the admins. And so I guess the question is, do you have enough people in order to make that happen?
I think for another thing I can pull from other games is when an admin's shorthanded, you can like pick like randomly people that are on regularly that you've seen play for a while, obviously, and are you've played with before. They're pretty much not a bunch of bullshitters that just kind of keep track of what's going on. And
that is, they abuse their powers.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, I have that.
Only one of them going on at once. You have like multiples at a time, so it's kind of like they're balancing out each other, and they don't know who each other is.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, I have a sort of system right now with that. Players I've known in the past, players I know from the server that help me out and feed me information when I'm not around, so I'm able to keep track of things. If there's anything suspicious, they let me know, and I kind of trust their opinion. But then again, anybody who gives me information, I have to keep a level of doubt in my head and investigate it myself to be able to determine.
Yeah, good job, actually. Honestly, what I've seen so far, you're very fair and you're very even fielded, even though you know some of these people that are in the alphas and stuff like that. I would say you're doing a hell of a good job, brother.
Thank you. Yeah. But yeah. So I try to keep everything in check. Really, what I try to do is keep me at the head of things because I know my personality, I know my goal, and I know my
final decision away from you.
No, yeah. But yeah, so essentially what I was saying.
Basically, have somebody who, because there's a reporting system in here, right? For
Yeah.
briefing, that kind of shit. but you can't always be there to see if that's true. What I'm saying is, if you get enough reports about an individual player from people, then you have your little eyes and ear people that are on regularly check it out. And see
Yeah,
what's going on.
and
if
I
they
essentially...
see enough of them agree that it's a problem, then you go in and do it yourself. Then it takes away from the amount of time that you have to spend doing it. Like I said, I haven't been here super long, so I don't fully know what's going on.
Yeah, essentially I have that already. I have, like I said, I have players that I've known for a while that I trust because I've seen the way they operate, and then I have players that have been on my server that maybe I haven't known for a while, but they seem to treat things with a serious and open-mindedness, and they report things to me. Now, as far as the admins and stuff go, they're players that I felt comfortable with. I keep track of them through server command logs and stuff like that to kind of keep them in check, because like you said, you haven't been around long. But I did accept an admin in that was sort of newer to the server, but I'd known him from other servers. I'd seen him play. But what happened is he did start abusing that power, and I had to ban him. And he actually helped me set up this physical server. He helped me set up this physical server, which was great. But I can't tolerate abuse, and so I keep track of things very quickly. But what an issue that I do have, and it's mostly people's ignorance sometimes when they come in, is the outcry of like admin abuse or favoritism and biasness, which sucks for me, because I spend all this time investigating myself certain things, and it sucks for me because I don't deserve that reputation, but that's my own thing. That's what I have to deal with, and I know there's going to be people who are going to claim that sometimes, but yeah, it's just something I need to deal with. But I have ways of keeping track of people, and I've said quite a few times, and you haven't been around long, but I've said quite a few times to people individually and in general. I mean, I'll post conversations that I have with people. I don't have a problem doing with it. And the reason is when it comes to my server, like, I've gotten some donations, but I put my money into the server. Whether I've known you before or whether I've just met you, you're going to get the same respect for me, because in a way, I don't give a fuck. Because it's my money. You're not my best friend from when I was a kid. Like, I enjoy talking to friends I have online and stuff like that. But ultimately, the way my server is conducted and stuff is what's most important to me. And I understand psychology of people very well, and people are volatile, and they can change from one second to the other. So I don't put a lot of weight in those sorts of things,
I have a suggestion for to resolve the whole issue on, maybe put out a request for a volunteer to monitor news. Maybe somebody would enjoy doing that, and making sure that, you wouldn't have to give them very many privileges as an admin. They would just need to basically have like a registration, and people that log in that are new, that need time, could register as a noob, and they could be monitored by this individual that really wouldn't have any admin powers. And maybe somebody wouldn't mind doing that.
I know there's always somebody that comes into a PvP server with their buddy that's in like a larger clan or whatever, that they're primarily there just for the building and the creation aspect of it. They don't really give a crap about the PvP. They don't really enjoy it necessarily. They're just there because of their buddies. So maybe find somebody who you know for sure is like that, and let them have like their own little base thing that they help out the dudes for a certain period of time.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a cool...
That would go back to that clan thing where I was suggesting maybe it could instead be that person that really doesn't want to do the PvP aspect. They just want to sit there and build cool shit.
Yeah, that would be a cool role for somebody if somebody was willing to do it. Okay, so I've been thinking about it. Let me tell you just kind of an idea that I have, and then you guys can continue with your ideas or comments on that one or whatever. So that...
Sorry, before you do that. Can
Yeah,
you
go
take
ahead.
5 seconds and tell me what this conversation is about? Because I just got here.
Oh.
It's the town hall.
I know, but the purpose and the context is still eluding me a little bit. There seems to be a question of nuke protection, but not much else.
Not necessarily like protection, just making sure that, from what I understand, making sure the larger clans aren't basically making it impossible.
Well, it's not specifically. Yeah, it's not specifically about larger clans. What it is about putting everybody on a more balanced level PvP wise, and that goes for the people that have the power to raid and the people that have the power to defend. So the people that have the power to raid, usually I mean, I don't want to control the way people play for the most part. You know, people that raid a lot might decimate a lot of new players, and then they just, you know, give up, whatever. But then also on the attackers end, you know, with my high or my low building damage taken settings, it makes it hard for people to raid, because one guy can have a bunch of mats, sit in a tier 3 cube and just keep repairing, and then people are wasting lots of bombs on it and getting nowhere. So we want to kind of balance those two. So that's kind of what we're talking about, is how do we any ideas on adjusting in-game settings or out of the game policy to kind of eliminate a dominance on one scale or the other, and kind of make it less geared towards offline raiding and more geared to online raiding and PvP, so it makes it funner for everybody.
Okay. Got some ideas, but you continue with what you're saying, and I'll chime in.
Okay, yeah, I'll say mine, then you can go right after me. So my idea, and this, it would take a little bit of effort for me, but it wouldn't take too much, is one way we could do it is we can establish a declaration of war system. So what happens is, to a certain extent, a clan that has a beef with another clan or wants to raid another clan can issue a declaration of war. This declaration of war, say through a channel in the Discord or whatever, gives that clan, basically sets off a timer. It gives whatever time seems appropriate. It gives the defending clan a certain amount of time to prepare for that. So they know they're going to get raided. They have to prepare for this. They know, you know, which day they can, if possible, adjust their, you know, real life or whatever to be online to defend.
Are you basically saying that it's going to allow for them to prepare, because whoever the attacking clan is basically telling them exactly when it's going to happen, and are you like going to make it so that's kind of how clan v clan starts would have to work? You'd have to like basically announce it to the server that
yes,
you are fighting to prevent,
yes, like, so
in game just random killing of each other, or
well, not in game random killing.
I don't mean like
yeah, let me finish explaining it, and I'll go into a little more details that I haven't gone into yet. So in-game PvP, that would still be 24/7. So you could roll up on a guy that's out in the open, attack him, kill him, whatever. Talking about raid specifically, there would be a declaration of war process. So the attacking clan would issue a declaration of war against another clan or player. That would set off a timer. They'd have 24, 48 hours or whatever to prepare and coordinate themselves so they could be online to defend. So this would help eliminate the offline raiding aspect, right? And give people a chance at more fun PvP and sieging and raiding. So within that, what couple options I could do is, one, I could leave the damage on 24/7. And just if somebody violates that, if they haven't issued a declaration of war and they violate that and that's reported to me, then they can be punished for that. Or I can turn off damage to structures completely, and as declarations of war are issued, I can set the damage to be turned off at that certain times. And if any clans that don't have a declaration of war during those certain times are raided or have damage to the structures or anything, those people will be punished. All somebody has to do is send me a screenshot of their event log, and we can address that. There might be a little negative to that is I can't see times on the event log, but I mean, this is one way we can kind of adjust the in-game dynamic to gear it less towards offline rating, more towards in-game rating, online rating. And then also what I could then do, since we have this system established, is then I can tweak building damage. I can eliminate stuff like repairing a base during a raid, so players won't be allowed to repair a base while being raided, but they're also prepared for a raid, so they can PvP and stuff to stop that raid from happening. You know what I'm saying?
Well, if you do the scheduled, structured declaration system before a raid, you need to keep people from logging off with all of their stuff, because if they know when the raid is coming, they can just log off with all their stuff before one of the restarts and screw over the raiders.
That's true. That's another negative thing to it.
I don't have a solution.
I don't know that necessarily logging off of other stuff is an issue, just because, like we discussed earlier, we're on a 10-time server. It's not hard to replace a lot of that crap for the most part. Maybe the top tier stuff, that like the star metal crap or whatever, I'm not sure. I haven't gotten to that point yet because I'm still exploring the map. But the one major issue though I am seeing is if we're gonna do that, and you're gonna be like basically give the defenders a certain amount of time to prepare, you need to get rid of that balance that you did with the how much damage the abilities can take, because at that point they can just sit there and make it basically impossible for them to break through. And that's kind of what I was saying, is if we go to a system like that, I could retweak the damage settings so that it makes it less impossible. But also, even if I didn't retweak the damage settings, because doors and stuff like that take normal damage, with a policy of no repair, even bases that are all walls or have no doors, stuff like that, people are still able to get into. Now it'll cost them a little bit more bombs. Maybe I bring the damage down by half or something like that, make it a little less costly, but they're still able to get in without somebody repairing it and completely making it impossible to get in, because they place a few bombs, it makes damage, and then they just hit it a few times with the repair hammer, and the damage is back, or the health is back up again. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, as far as I've seen, you're able to just... Foundations are the hardest thing to destroy, right? For each tier?
Yeah, pretty much. They have the most health.
From what I've seen of certain buildings, they're nothing but foundations up to a certain point, at least where you can access them for rating purposes, I mean, from that kind of standpoint. So it's almost, I would figure, even if they did, all they'd have to do is get rid of the doors and have nothing but foundations there in that prep time, and it'd be basically a waste of resources for the rating people.
Yeah. Well, we could, I mean, if that is an issue, we could also make there a policy of no full foundation, building. You must have a door, that sort of thing. Now, I don't want to limit stashes. Like, if people want to hide loot in their base, I'm cool with that. I think that's a cool, shifty tactic to do, to hide stuff, in floorboards or something like that, and really make it difficult for a raiding party to find out, what's in there. If we were to do like the policy I was talking to, also, I would still want to keep a full wipe destruction policy off the table. Like, I wouldn't want people completely foundation wiping a base just to raid them. I would want there still to just be, this is where the high damage comes into place. I never wanted people to be fully wiped at their base. If they lose their stuff, they can replace their stuff. But their base, there's a lot of time that goes into building and building the mats and stuff like that. It's cool to still have your place and be able to instantly just fill it and replace doors and be back on your feet again. So I would still have a policy, still want to have a policy of no foundation wiping, stuff like that, destroying the whole base. Just basically just straight up raiding.
That your idea of declaration of war is a good idea, but I don't know about having the prep time, because honestly, maybe a short period of time, maybe one server restarts every 6 hours or something.
Yeah, the period of time is up to debate, but then also I want to give people.
That's something we could work on too. Like, because this is
change. Sure.
We have to play with it and see what happens.
Yeah, but it couldn't be so short to where like, a guy that's has to work a double that day and then goes to sleep. Maybe that's 24 hours. He never even sees the declaration or is able to get online. It can't be too short, and yeah, being too long, it would be kind of ridiculous as well. But you definitely, it caused you to have to plan things ahead of time, for sure.
You could also leave it option open, so that the receiving party of the declaration has to accept it, or has to, check off that it is aware that they've been declared.
You are both talking at the exact same time, and I can't understand either of you.
Oh, there's somebody else. Their voice was very low, but they were talking.
OT, we're both talking.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you two were both talking at the same time, so you were overlapping. I couldn't understand it.
Yeah, Potato was really low. He's a little bit louder now too.
I was gonna say that maybe limit the board declaring maybe on weekends, and that way that's when normally everyone is off.
Yeah, the only problem with that is weekend is relative based on your time zone, because somebody can be like their weekend starts like 12 hours before your weekend. So
it was that the receiving party of the declaration would have to accept it, so that way it doesn't necessarily have to be 24 hours. If the other party is online, they could accept it and they could kick off right away.
Yeah, that's one option. The only downside I would see to that is then a clan could just reject every declaration, and I don't think that's very good for a PvP server if people can just reject them.
But we're just having acceptance that they acknowledge the fact they've been declared war against.
Well, they could just shut up and not acknowledge it.
If I would say, like, give them a period of time, and then if that's the case, and then if after a certain number of strikes they still don't respond, then they're just SOL.
Exactly. That's my feeling on it too. Is if they have that grace period. If they don't acknowledge it, or they've been off game, then sorry, you're raided. Right now it's 24/7 raid. Anybody can raid anytime. So at least this is a step up from that. They have a little bit more chance to defend themselves. But at a certain point, you can only baby people so much.
Oh yeah, that goes back to it's a PvP server. You have to expect a certain level of getting your ass kicked if you're by yourself or something like that. It's just how the game goes. The concept of a PvP server is to fight each other. Yeah.
I prefer that over the war declaration system.
Well, here's...
Regimented PvP is never... it's rarely fun.
Yeah, well, that's not the only issue, the dynamic to it. Because here's the thing, is I'm getting arguments on the other side, as well, that one of the things we're trying to adjust is offline rating, because I have complaints that offline rating is as fun, and because of the high building damage, people can just block them in, and you waste a bunch of bombs, and they just sit there and repair it. But the thing is also, I don't want to. So the suggestion was to lower building damage, and I'm like, well, the thing is, I'm not going to make it easier on you to raid, because not everybody is going to be like, oh, they're online, I'm going to go raid them with the low building damage. Some people are going to still offline raid. They're going to offline raid everybody. Everybody operates in different ways. If I have one rogue guy or girl that's raiding everybody on the map and driving people off, that's not fun for anyone. So
yeah, but if it's one individual, eventually the majority of people are going to notice that because he's going to be screwing with everybody, and then everybody's going to make life impossible for him. You
would hope, but even okay, let's just take the in-game dynamic as it is right now. Now, what Reina was saying, that's what a lot of people would do in the case. Right now, I don't really see that on this server. What I see on this server right now,
I'm not seeing more than like 10 to 20 people at most on at one time. It's usually for what, and I'm on quite often because I have a 3-day school schedule, and then I'm off for the rest of it to do homework and screw around or whatever, do my life stuff. But I'm able to be on for an extended period of time, and I'm only ever seeing maybe 10 people on average on it at once. So it's like
32 actually. We've had some really large numbers online. It just depends.
I've seen 25. That was the highest I've seen, but that was for a short period of time when I first got on.
Phoenix, you're saying you're not seeing it on this server. Is it that it can't happen on the server, or you're just not seeing it?
No, it's not that it can't happen. It's just that people, players aren't doing it. There's a weird dynamic right now where we have an alpha clan, and you're always going to have an alpha clan. I don't have an issue with that. But the weird dynamic is nobody's really challenging them. And I'm like, come on, you guys, like, organize a little bit. Or what people are doing instead is they're afraid or something like that, or they're just, they're basically, instead of organizing and working together, they're complaining and just building, and I don't know what's going on.
Okay, so then there's a knowledge gap, Phoenix, right?
Oh, there definitely is, and there always will be a knowledge gap.
New players don't have the knowledge to know how to raid an alpha clan, so they can't do it. They're intimidated. They give up. Right?
Yeah, but
so
that's part of it. Yeah.
To gap that, the knowledge gap.
I mean, that's just in-game experience and relying on your peers to learn from and stuff like that. I mean, there's quite a few clans on here that take on new players.
Specifically, and a couple other people. I'm new to Conan specifically. I'm not necessarily PvP games like Ark and stuff, but like Fluber, and there's several other that are usually on pretty often. I can ask a question if I don't know how to do something, and they happily respond and tell me what's up.
Yeah,
I'm always for helping people. Like every time anybody's got a new question or anything, I'm always trying to answer it, and I would be absolutely willing to show people how to make like better bases if there was some sort of administrative system, not through me as an administrator, but like somehow helping whatever Phoenix decides to implement on the server. Like I could spend some time running by people's bases and like giving them suggestions on how to build better. I would be happy to do that.
I mean, you could even
monitor, newbies as well. I mean,
well, the other thing for building bases specifically, because I think Phoenix, by the way, I hate your stupid base on the aqueduct because I wanted to build up there. Anyways,
I'm going to tear it down eventually. I just built it for an event I did.
I didn't know what it was at first, and I watched you do your little arena and tried to capture your little dancer thrall, and I was like, wait a minute, why is this chick not, like, going unconscious? And then I realized it was yours. But anyways, I freaking broke my damn truncheon before I figured it out.
Noob.
But,
just kidding.
Anyway, well, I was almost broke anyways, but what you could do, since your stuff is indestructible, correct? As admin stuff?
Well, it's not indestructible, but people aren't allowed to destroy it.
Okay. Well, then, what you could do is get a couple of the more experienced players together, and you all, in the spawn area, open doors, like no actual doors, so there's no, and make it so they can't, because the foundations will make it so you can't build on them. Just build, like, examples of different bases for people to go off of.
Or
just so they can see a general layout.
Or what would be better is if people wanted to help other people, we could create like a buddy system or a, big brother system of people that are willing to help, and we organize them in the Discord as those specific people that are available when they have time, and they could, or I could, or we could make videos that demonstrate certain techniques on how to build how to do certain things that will
I mean, to be honest,
help out other players.
Exactly. So useful. I mean, you can pull up the wiki, and it's got great info. The wiki actually is pretty good for this one. It's got most of the info, like locations for thralls and stuff like that. But when you go into the building section, it gives you links to how to build certain bases, or like a good starting base for people who've never played before. And it's just, the resources are there. It's just like, I guess some of the newer players maybe don't realize that.
Oh yeah, I spend a lot of my time accounting for people's inexperience and lack of knowledge, because when it comes to cheating or hacking reports, when it comes to PvP rating, specific things like that, some people will, they'll complain something's hacking, but really it's just a lack of knowledge of how things work in game.
Well,
and
yeah,
I have to
the sandbox system and
yeah.
the PvP aspect. Like, I remember when I first started playing Ark, I thought everybody was like God, basically, because I had no idea what I was doing, and it was pretty ridiculous. But you figure it out pretty quick, or you just realize you don't like this game type and you stop playing, or you move to PvE.
Right. Well, the point is, we're trying to foster people. We want more people,
yeah.
less people.
Well, I know, but
there's
there's always going to be those certain people, though, who can't accept the fact that their knowledge base is what's making them inferior.
Yeah.
There's people that want to figure it out on their own, right? And I understand that. But what we're trying to do is figure out some way to gap that.
I totally get that.
If we did an MMR, right, a matchmaking request system, we had teams, it was team-based, and you did your clans based off of those teams, you could pair people that are experienced with people that are experienced, and you could actually have a match.
If we did that for like a short
intense.
time, if we did that like between major wipes, maybe we did that for like, I don't know, a couple days or something. That would be neat.
Maybe Phoenix just needs to make another server that's a tournament-based server. And it's just got this one for playing around, balance and whatever. And then he's got another. Well, that may not be true though. Maybe a lot of other people will agree that a tournament-based system is needed, and then they'll join. Now Phoenix has more people,
actually
not
had a lot
less.
of thought about the idea of a tournament-based system. There was like rewards, genuine rewards, not necessarily on this server, but this is kind of a tangent. If there was like a system of conquering, where if you are successfully raided, you have to surrender your bases and join the clan of the base that raided you, and it only lasts like a week or so. So you just burn through, a set number of players and a set number of clans, and first place and second and third win these rewards. That might make sense with your system.
I mean, all those ideas.
Regulate how many people were in each clan. You would have to regulate how large the clan you get, or just a bunch of people would band together and they would win all the time.
Yeah, I mean, all those scenario-based suggestions are all actually really cool and really interesting. It's just really the execution and the regulation and the admin properties that go into it, because the game doesn't have any built-in systems for that right now, so it takes a lot of effort to put that stuff together. So that's the only negative to it as it is right now.
Right. Well, that's Phoenix. You're trying to say that you have to do the tournaments. The players can host their own tournaments, man.
No, yeah, they could.
You could just set up like a rule
say
here.
There's like
locations. Here's your building area, whatever. Here's your resources. Good luck. We'll see what comes out on top at the end of the week.
yeah. I mean, that's essentially what the whole server is. To be.
For something like that, if you're going to close that off, that would be kind of like the same idea as the whole noob zone, but instead it'd be the major clan v clan like fighting zone, and you have to have that in a select area and small enough that everybody else can work around it, but large enough they can all build and not be right on top of one another. Well, that would go back to having to split up the map again.
From everybody and back and forth, honestly, it's the questions of power, and then the questions of game dynamics as far as damage dealt and damage received. you kind of pretty much settle all of it by having a newbie area, somebody monitor it, that gives people the clearance to get into the game and get them, moving up into the bigger groups. I mean, the larger area that we can all be PvPing in, and then also the declaration of war sounded like an awesome idea. Those will probably be two great things to start off to see what happens.
Yeah, you don't want to do declaration of war is too much work with the admins.
I don't think it will be, because most the amount of work that I am concerned with is the in-game amount of work. If I can control things out of game, which I'm perfectly capable of doing, you can see me responding in Discord and stuff like that, or I can go into the server and do actual changes almost all the time. I'm pretty much available a lot of the time. It's being actually at my computer and in-game that is sort of the issue. So if I can control things, like if there's declaration of war and it's done through the Discord and stuff like that, I can keep track of all that. It's just the in-game execution.
And stuff are in the Discord, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you just make a channel that's specific? If you want to do the whole declaration thing, you have a specific channel just for that, like in the chat ones, where they can make their declaration, and then you can monitor, like, if the person responds and then the time frame, and then go ahead and give them, and then just, yeah, and then you can give them the go ahead. Oh yeah, they haven't responded, so have fun.
Yeah, that's always going to be an issue whenever we try to mess with when raiding happens. We want to control, the balance of what happens, because, a clan or a person that has 100 hours in the server on that specific wipe, compared to a player that just came in for an hour or a day, there's going to be a huge disparity in power and resources and stuff like that. But the attempt to try to balance it through controlling rating, there's always going to be that disparity of time available and stuff like that. So that's definitely the negative to it, I would say. So you're not wrong.
Yeah. The problem is anything.
What is offline to me might not be offline to someone else as far as hours. And
yeah.
To the point of having to sort of say, how would you
range? The problem with anything with a server like this, where you have so many people and it's open to so many different time zones, you can't. Having a certain period of time where they have to acknowledge would be good, but the only issue with that is if they acknowledge right away, then you need to have like a certain period of time after that acknowledge, like they get a short period of time. You would like actually are like
I mean, like in Dark and Light, there was no acknowledgement. You knew that war could be declared upon you.
It was to prevent the offline rating where.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, you just have to accept the declaration, or at least acknowledge right. And then from that period of time, it would be a time period that the war could actually take place.
Yeah, it's just
or it's surrender. I don't know. That would be still open for discussion. But yeah, I think that's why.
Maybe here's just a thought. Maybe say we were to do that type of system, and a declaration of war was issued, but the opposing clan was not able, and letting the attacker dictate the time when they're going to raid might be a little ridiculous, because it just might not be fair. But if there was an admin dictated time for the raid, and say the defender could not be online, they knew they would not be online at that time, maybe there could be a surrender option where If they could, yeah, they would have to surrender basically give a bounty to the attacker for not being able to defend, but they don't lose everything because they aren't able to be online.
Or you could do a system we did on a server I played in Arc, where if you don't want to lose your shit, you have to spend a certain amount of time gathering like certain resources of like a certain tier of resources to an amount.
Yeah.
Everybody can declare war on people, and
well, yeah.
That makes the alpha make it almost impossible to raid anybody because people would just surrender all the time.
And so
what would you attack?
I mean, but we limited the number of times you could surrender to like 2. After that, you just automatically were gained for being raided. So it really, you just have to regulate how many times they can do that.
Yeah, that would be.
Like anything else.
That would be a good idea.
Right now, and I'm gonna do it again in 5 seconds. Oh, you didn't respond in time, so y'all forget.
Yeah,
this is pointless.
I agree.
This that's the issue though with trying to regulate raiding on a PvP server and making rules. Is there's always going to be a loophole.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a clan who's doing better than the others, and if that one clan is even marginally better at the right time to take out the second best clan that's doing well on the server, there's immediately a massive power gap, and you're always going to have the alpha. Even with the silence perfect balance system, or even with the ratings declaration system that Phoenix is thinking of, you're always going to have a server superpower.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of why you would encourage people, and it's kind of normally it's common sense, but you would encourage people, if you're tired of getting raided all the time by the large clan because you don't have the numbers or whatever, join up, like either ally with another clan for a short period of time to screw with them, or combine clans.
Pretty open. I mean, that's
kind of the whole point of it right now.
I have an idea. If you can incentivize the smaller clans to band together and maybe put minor limitations on an alpha clan, maybe we can make use of your declaration system, right? Maybe we implement a system when there is an alpha, in the event that there is a clearly defined alpha.
So what you're saying is use a declaration of war system, but gear it more towards putting the server together to balance the power against, like, say, an alpha clan. Is that what you're saying?
I'm thinking of maybe only giving the very minor rewards, but something that players can use. Maybe, well, I can't determine that. That's up to you.
You're saying basically incentivize the mechanic where people actually work together like you normally do as you see in other games or other servers, that I guess, based off the way you guys are talking, isn't happening on this one very often. But basically incentivizing people to work together against the large one, even if it's for a short period of time, and then they go back to their little groups of buddies.
Correct. I was thinking about having Phoenix use this declaration system to implement that smaller alliance, and to have it be restricted in a way that they have to attack the alpha. That the only way to get them to be rewarded with this declaration system, whatever the reward may be, only give it to them if all of their efforts are directed at the alpha.
I mean, that's a good idea as well.
Maybe use the declaration system to lock out the alpha clan from raiding other clans. Like, let's say you got 6 groups that want to team up against the alpha, and during this declaration, those 6 groups are the only people that the alpha clan can raid.
Yeah, actually.
I mean,
so so does are you what you're saying is, do we then rate clans based on their power or availability of resources and players to match them against more worthy opponents? Is that what you're saying?
So basically go back to the MMR system that was being talked about.
Somewhat.
I'm saying kind of a similar concept though, because if you play like a MOBA, right, the whole point of the system is to match you against similarly strength players to make it an even fight, or as close to an even fight as possible. Okay? Basically, what I'm getting from what you're saying, which I think is wrong.
Is it clan size or is it,
Yeah, you'd have to determine. Are you saying like basically just determine like power levels of the alpha clan based off of certain categories, and then find other clans and rate them behind them, and then the alpha's only able to go after a certain number of them? Or
That's not the idea.
That's what I'm trying to understand what you mean.
The goal for the alliance is to overthrow the alpha clan, so they would necessarily have to be, if Phoenix could determine, player and clan quality somehow, if there's such a metric in existence, and I don't think there is, let's assume that the alliance has to be significantly more powerful than the alpha clan, right? So throw balance out the window and have the goal be the overthrowing of the alpha clan.
That would basically, so that's almost like turning this into where there's like a scenario where like the alpha clan is like the ruling empire of whatever territory, and everybody else is like a bunch of rebels trying to.
I mean, if that's what we're looking to do.
I'm trying to like simplify the concept a little bit.
Right.
But I mean, you can. But all it, like I said earlier, all of this is just stuff we have to test out and see what happens.
Yeah, and
we don't know how any
necessarily have to come with a whole laundry list of changes, like maybe keeping people from logging off of stuff in their bases, repairing and building, because there's no way one clan, let's say this alpha clan, it doesn't matter if there's 40 people in it, and there's a server of 30 people against them with the cap of 70, if they're repairing, and they're building, and they're logging out with their stuff, no one's gonna get anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's the worst case scenario.
Yeah. Combine that with you need to have a door into your base, and not a foundation, but you have to have a accurate doorway, and combine it with no repair during raid.
Yeah.
Problem should be solved. We will have a lot more PvP as well.
We will.
Yeah, and that's really what we want is more PvP and not just like a bunch of offline raiding bullshit, because it's really, I mean, the point was made to me, and this is what triggered this thing, is it really isn't that fun, and it's not fun having people not work together to overthrow a clan, having a huge imbalance of power, or having people with power completely destroying newer people or anything like that. What we want to do is have people build up and have healthy PvP, and a back and forth is what we want.
I mean, the problem that the only other main problem I ever saw on servers in other games was you get like a large clan of people. They basically force everybody out of the server because nobody would want to play, and then they'd move on. And it would if you're going to get into PvP, you have to be willing to fight back a little bit, or there's no point getting into the server in the first place. And if you're just going to sit there and complain and not try to play the game, there's no reason really for you to be on the server, and with the exception of the new people who have no idea what they're doing, and it just happened to be the server they picked. We could either point them to a better server to suit them and have them tell them to come back when they feel better prepared, or other clans can just accept them in, or there'd be a clan to accept them in to help them out, just to make it so to incentivize people wanting to stay on this server long enough to be able to, because the more we help the newer people get better, the more likely they are to want to get into the PvP aspect of it.
And help more new people.
Yeah. So if somebody's asking a legitimate question, they're out trying to figure out something, maybe kind of, yeah, it's PvP, attack whoever you want. But maybe if you know it's a new person, new to the server, it's obvious they don't know what they're doing, maybe you help them out a little bit, because it can make it more fun for you if you have a challenge.
Sure. I mean, a lot of people already know this, but a lot of people are just evil to begin with. People don't care that people are starting new, and they're just going to want to rub their face in. Some people play the game because they like fucking somebody else or others stay up. You know what I mean? So
Well,
you can't really take it away from them, though. You can't take the game away from them as well. I mean, personally, I like that either.
But we gotta make them work for it. Then let's those of us who like don't like that, but we know that's part of their gameplay. Like some of the larger plans put like a bounty or something. You know, like make a system where we can have like a list of players that we know does this, and a bounty or something. You know,
that's more policing and.
Well, no, I'm not saying like complete.
People in clans tell other people like, hey man, you know, take it easy on these dudes. It happens already. I mean, we all police each other already. So, but the thing, I think the newbie area was a great idea. Because I know from when I've gone on other servers and I was the little guy, and you just get stopped. And I must have picked 30 different servers before I came to this one, because every time I get stopped, and I was like, fuck it. Yeah, you don't want to rebuild there because you're just going to get stopped again. So.
But every time you got rolled over, you fucking learned something.
This is true, though. Right. This is also true. But
you can't baby new players to the point where they're just like neutered.
No, you don't hand them a freaking.
I agree. But I mean, I knew the area like down in the south side for people that don't know the game and are learning. That way, they at least will want to stay on the server because they see people trying to help them. I mean, I don't know. It's just right.
One of the guys I helped just
volunteer for that. Honestly, I volunteered to monitor time periods of people in newbie area. I wouldn't mind doing that.
And I'm on often enough. I'd be willing to help out too. I don't have a problem with that, and I don't have a problem with the area. Literally, seriously, the only thing I do have an issue with on this server is the fact that buildings don't just degrade to the point that they're gone. And there's just so many buildings that we all know have been there forever.
I know, it seems that way, but, you know, like, actually, on the server, it is pretty cool the way the decay works. It isn't too short that it... I think, actually, Phoenix has done an excellent job of trying to balance
Well, I'm not saying that he's...
I know you're not, but I'm just saying...
It's the hardest point for us.
Really, the buildings here, when they get built and they get gutted, some people do build, but some people don't want to ride back on, so it actually gives them enough time. Some people do come back and do rebuild, and the decay mode actually I think is set perfect, honestly, myself.
My example for this would be right next to where myself and my friends, our base is at the moment. There is another like well-made base right next to us that was gutted. It's obvious that it's been raided. All the doors are gone. But it takes a week because I was sit there and pounded on that shit forever.
Don't attack it. Don't attack it. You don't want to attack it yet. Just let it decay, and then once it goes into decay mode, you can destroy it. And it only takes about a week, dude.
Well, I didn't know that as far as the way
it's pretty quick.
Just because of this, like I said, the sheer number of bases, I assumed that the decay part was off. Like it is.
That's just because recently we had a bunch of people join up, and unfortunately, a lot of people were bored because there was no one else to attack, and everybody just went out and gutted all these lower end bases, and a lot of people left the server. Over the last couple of weeks, it's been pretty high numbers of people joining and then leaving. So it's just a period of time right now where there are all these gutted structures, but they do decay off pretty quickly.
Okay. I'll bring it back up if like this thing's still around.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, though, also you should tell an admin, because if we know that they're not online at all, and I know that Phoenix and Snake are willing to destroy some certain buildings depending on the situation.
Snake loves that shit. If you make a genuine report to Snake about abandoned buildings over the course of a couple days, he'll be on in like 5 minutes and he'll wipe that stuff out.
Yeah, and like even if there's a mistake and the clan was actually still active, like I've heard I heard one instance where he destroyed it and it turned out they're actually there and he just refunded them all the stuff. So.
Yeah, and as an admin, that part's easy. So if that,
yeah,
so it's not a huge deal. It's just trying to figure out which ones are just there. They got either placed early or because I know that you can build in certain areas and then just leave it there and come back to it for a second to make sure it doesn't decay, and then all you're doing is preventing certain things from spawning or preventing other players from being able to build in that area so they can't get to stuff.
So by listening to all this, I would say the three big ideas or things that could help would be one, information, helping, kind of a big brother type system where people help out newer players with information. They don't necessarily have to be in the same clan. But they can direct them towards information or help show them how to play. That would be cool to have kind of.
Put that in your message, like.
Yeah, and like I said, I would make a specific Discord role for those specific players, so they're easy to find and easy to locate and reach out to. So that would be one, to create some kind of buddy system for volunteers that want to help out new players. The other main idea would be the sort of noob area location. We'd have to figure out the best way to regulate it and make it so that people do not use it as a crutch, and also don't use it as a storage space for larger clans. So any the in-game monitors that would keep track of that location could keep track of the clans and players that are in that area. And if they see a large clan down there, they know that doesn't belong there, and they could call an admin to destroy their base or whatever, so that it only allows newer players to establish themselves down there. Now, bigger clans could go down there and they could farm for stuff they want to, say crystal, brimstone, and stuff like that. But it'd make it sort of a noob friendly safe zone for. I would only make it for maybe like a couple days or something, because really what
On the server.
on this server the noob area isn't really that useful for too long. And then the third would be some kind of war declaration process in whatever respect that we think it works best, whether it be a clan versus clan.
We can always just like pick a couple people, like clans who are willing to be the guinea pigs for that.
Yeah, of course.
Thing, just to see if it works out or not.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, we get rid of it.
So it could either be a clan to clan thing, or it could be a kind of balance of power thing where, like Flubert said, maybe it's a thing that just happens between some top clans to eliminate repairing and stuff during raids, so the top clans are more vulnerable to getting taken down instead of being a huge imbalance of power. Or it's a banding together of certain clans to do a raid or attack on an alpha clan that has an extremely well put together base or balance of power.
Okay.
So there's a few different. On that last one, there's a few different ways it could be operated, I guess. So I from the meeting, I would take those three main aspects as the most, I guess, central points of ways of doing things that we could try, I guess.
And then if we had a meeting every week, we could talk about see how it's going, what people think, that would also be ideal, I think, having the town hall meeting like once a week.
Yeah, I want...
There's no way we're all going to agree on something. It's
No.
just, at the end of the day, it's your server. You need to be like, okay, I'm the one paying for this. This is what I want to try. If you don't like it, just get out. If you don't really care, thanks for working with me here to try and make this happen.
Yeah, well, of course, ultimately, I'll make the decision, see what works best for the server, but I want there to be an open forum for ideas, because thinking that I could come up with every single idea myself and have it tested on all ends of what would be benefits and what would be negatives would be ridiculous and very egotistical of me to think that I could think of every opposing view.
Honestly, that's awesome when you let the input come in from the people that are playing it.
Yeah. Well, you guys, honestly, you play more than I do on this server. I come on, I've just started streaming and doing my own little thing on the server without admin powers and just kind of, dicking around. But you guys play more than I do. You're on when, I'm working a double or something like that. So it makes sense to address it with the people who are experiencing it the most, and not just like dictating things.
Like it's the same, yeah, it makes it more community, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to the PvP for clans, having a larger clan isn't necessarily a bad thing, because for me, I like a challenge, so it gives me something to work towards.
No, there's definitely a good aspect to it. Is the things that make things fun, and I try to talk to people, because a lot of people would be like, oh, you know, this guy or this girl is very mean, or you know, she's always like taunting me and blah. It's like, well, you know, you got to understand, like, that's actually a fun part of the game, because you need. A cool thing about having a PvP environment like this, and bases and different clans and stuff like that, is you have an enemy to fight. You have a villain. Like, they're not supposed to be like, hey dude, what's up? Like, let's have a cold beer. Okay, now let's like smack each other with swords. Like, whatever. Like, it's always fun to have a villain. Like, I've played on other servers where, you know, usually it was somebody who was violating the game in some way, then they became our enemy, or somebody that's a complete troll and we just did not get along with them. They were the enemy, you know? But in a PvP game, enemies are what you kind of feed off. Now, you can come back into Discord and be kind of nice or whatever, but in game, like if you're getting trolled, or you're, you know, they're calling you a baby or stuff like that, I mean, that's just something people are gonna do. I'm not gonna regulate that much. Now, if, you know, if somebody else is
to a ridiculous point where they just don't shut up and they're just spamming the crap out of the chat channel, that'd be something different.
Yeah, well, usually I try to regulate to certain channels, so that's because it needs to be kept to certain areas. But otherwise, I don't mind smack talk and stuff like that. That's part of, you know, game playing in itself.
Irritating about smack talk is like in game. Was it Silver and what was it? Who was it? Our review. I think you two got into it, and you guys went back and forth for like 10 minutes, and that was all that was in the chat. It was fun, but it was like at the same time I had questions.
That's a good part of the game, though. That's.
You have the option of not reading too.
Oh, the reading. I don't think.
Your Phoenix, I was here earlier. Evidently, what I was just suggesting is, rather than doing all of the minor things, as far as trying to manage like the raids, what about just putting the clan size limit of, let's say, 5, just as an example, and the restriction on raiding would only be that no one other than who's in your clan can be present for that raid. In other words, there's videotape, you can have mods do this, and if they do, that would be a violation, but nothing else. In other words, that would limit size. Anyone can survive, so there's not going to really be an elder clan. You're not allowing alliances, so about something like that.
Well, the only downside I see to that is not everybody can record, and admin can't always be present.
But that's true for anything. And you're going to have
Yeah.
other issues that are going to be hard to regulate. Just
Yeah.
saying, so.
And I really, and the also thing is, it wouldn't eliminate alliances altogether, to be honest. Like, people still have back channels.
I mean, because my clan and another clan, I could declare war, go after one clan, and have the second clan tag out with me, you know? There's no way you're going to regulate that. So that
Regulating anything in the ideas that we've already discussed about implementing, as far as the newbie area and declaration of war and the other thing, there's no real need for admin supervision in any of those. So I mean, I think it's a great start.
yeah,
There's
the
a
amount
need for
of,
admin oversight on when it happens.
Yeah, I mean, right, that's not a bad idea for Reina. It's just the execution and stuff just might be a little bit more
That's a great
tedious.
idea, but like the game doesn't really allow, right? It just, there's only so much shit to be.
Yeah, I mean, I could reduce, like, I mean, the suggestion was made to, just reduce clan size. I'm like, well, that doesn't fix anything, because, you know, there can be alliances, and then, you know, regulating alliances is ridiculous thought in itself, just because of the amount of work I or admins would have to put into it to try to keep in track of that stuff, and then not to mention all the information that goes on behind the scenes that we can't keep track of. It becomes almost futile to try to regulate. So it's the only negative thing to that.
The thing that I see would be hard to regulate is most people have the capability to either videotape or show or call them on because they do it now. So if you see someone they're raiding that's not a member of that group, you know, that would be the main thing. But you could control whether, you know, someone hands off their
don't think
that's true as well.
The raiding team is the biggest problem there, because when we are out raiding, we are seldom more than 3 to 4 people.
Yep.
People are really complaining that the issue is the alpha clans.
Yeah, and I'm talking about the alpha clan.
Well, no, the issue, actually, the issue is
3 to 4 people in each raid.
no. Here's the thing: is the issue is not just the raiding clan. I mean, the alpha clans. I mean, there's other big clans as well, but there's the flip side as well, to where even alpha clans or other clans, the issue of being able to raid and stuff, and the low damage on buildings and tactics people can use to kind of take advantage of that. So that's we're trying to balance things on both sides, where the attackers aren't at a disparity and the defenders aren't at a disparity. You know, it's kind of, we put everybody on an equal.
Make it so knowledge and skill, like, basically experience in the game is the deciding factor.
Yeah, I mean, yep.
And the only way you're gonna learn is being on the receiving end of both of them.
Yeah, you're gonna have to lose sometimes. You know, that's how you learn. I've lost plenty of times. That just got me more creative, and it made me think about, you know, what I was doing, noticing things I was doing wrong. But we can try to cultivate, you know, that win-loss system still, but try to eliminate the complete obliteration of newer players or single players and just sending them away from the server just because they can't seem to get a foothold, because people are constantly roaming and destroying their stuff while they're on or offline raiding online.
Since that'll make raiding more enjoyable, because the people will actually have, you know,
someone to fight.
Right. I mean, what fun is it really going down and knocking down a door of T1 structure, and you ain't gonna get nothing in the base anyway. They ain't got nothing.
I mean, we've been, my clan, it's only 3 of us at the moment, been around for several days, and we're up to, like, insulated shit, but we still haven't really been hit hard, because we don't, everybody knows we don't have anything we're attacking for.
Trust me, because I've seen most structures, if they're T2, they get raided. If they're T2 already, they get throttled. So.
You have a knowledge gap.
If what?
You've been playing on the server for 3 days, and you just finally got insulated. You have a knowledge gap.
No, I didn't just finally get insulated. We've had insulated since the first day. I don't have a knowledge of the map where all the resources are located yet. Okay. And I always have the wiki open for me, is I'm still trying to figure out. I have always, in most games, been more towards the, like, hunting in arc hunting and taming the dinos, or in this case, doing the thrall part. Yeah, I'm still learning. I mean, we got raided right out the gate. I got into a fight with frickin' Lotso Nugs here my first fucking day.
I mean, that's what's going to happen. Yeah, so then I think, what we've already talked about is a damn good start. You know, to maybe just, you know, south of the river, I would think that would be more than enough of an area.
Especially since that's where you spawn and everything.
On iron, then they have to grow up and move up to the other side of the base, you know what I mean, to the other side of the map. I mean,
yeah, okay, so I think instead of letting this become just a huge run-on meeting, let's say we've taken those points from this. I mean, this has all been streamed, and so it'll therefore be recorded and put on my YouTube. We'll cut it there, and we'll give all the other players on the map in the server and the Discord that weren't able to be online for the actual meeting and have their word, watch the video and listen to the points and stuff like that, and then give their opinion. And then based off that, a good amount of time, maybe a few days or something, of people being able to take a look and discuss it a little bit, I will put together a little system and try to put something together that we can work off and experiment with, at least like a kind of rough draft of server parameters and policy.
And please consider that you need to have your inside your base.
Yeah, I think one of the things I would. Yep, that's one of the things I said.
Service settings.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main points I put. If we establish the systems, then you know, I could make the policy of no repair during raid, and every base has to have a door during a raid, and stuff like that. So it's not just some guy, one guy with a bunch of repair mats in a tier 3 cube, constantly repairing while people are trying to blow into his base. Because that's not fun either. Because that's the other issues we're trying to address is the raiding issues of it's not fun to a raider to just have to waste a bunch of bombs and not get anywhere. I mean, if you don't get anywhere because the base is being defended well and you're not able to raid it and you just lose the raid, well, that's a learning experience also, you know. But if you have some dummy that's cheesing you because he has a bunch of resources gathered on a 10-time server, he's in a box and able to hit it with a repair hammer the whole time, then that's not fun for anybody else either.
Let's go both ways.
Yep. Okay. Cool. So I will end the recording there, and yeah, thank you guys for coming and actually participating. I'm glad that more people actually showed up, and it wasn't just the 3 of us in the beginning.
That you're open to all the suggestions.